All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm going to give it a few seconds. It always takes like 30 seconds or so for it to show up on YouTube. So I'm going to give it a minute. I have it in another tab and we'll see. Oh, here we go. Okay. I think we're about up. Hello. So we're here for the very first installment of the Indigenous Romance Read-Along, which is really exciting. Thank you so much to Michelle and Kim for joining this month. Michelle is co-hosting it's a 6-month thing running from now through August. And this month we read Heartbeat Braves by Pamela Sanderson. So it's all romances by Indigenous authors, which is super exciting. I have 2 wonderful Indigenous creators here. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves to everybody, that would be great. And go follow them. They're linked down below. Hello.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi,
Beth. Are you going to go first, Kim? Or do you want me
to go? Oh, no, you can go. Yeah, you can go. Michelle. You can go.
Awesome. Hihani Washday. My name is Michelle from Throw What's Another Letter, and I like to read Indigenous literature, fantasy, romance, pretty much anything that strikes my fancy, and I'm really excited to be here today. Also, I wanted to say happy birthday to Ren from Nootka Reads on Instagram, as well as Allie with Books on Instagram and Twitter, all that. She's a bookstagrammer too. I wanted to say happy birthday to Ren on here because I remembered that he was like, oh yeah, your live show is on my birthday. And I didn't say anything in the chat earlier because I was making food. And so I'm doing it here now so that way he can be all like, oh my gosh, thanks for mentioning me. Wow. But he's really awesome. He also likes to read Indigenous literature, so you should check him out as well. Oh no,
awesome. Oh no, we lost her. She'll be back. Her internet's going to be a little in and out, so she'll be back. Yeah, happy birthday. That's awesome.
I love birthdays. They're my favorite.
Yeah. Hi, Bree. Jennifer. Oh, here we go, Kim. Hey. Hello.
Yeah, I hit the back button.
Oh no.
It happens.
Yeah, I'm like the live show newbie, don't even know what I'm pushing, and I'm just like, okay. I'm sorry, everyone. Yeah, so Michelle, are you still talking or?
No,
I'm sorry.
I just said happy birthday to Ren.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Ren! He's the baby of the group, huh, Michelle?
He's just precious. I just want to squish him.
Okay, where I start? Oh, so my name is Kim. I am Tobacco Clan or Satowa from the village of Tewa in Hopi Nation, coming to you live from Arizona. And yeah, my book channel is Native Lady Book Warrior. So I mostly read in anything that is authored by an Indigenous author, but I'm definitely jumping into more BIPOC authors that I'm loving so much. And I like, I don't read a lot of romance. I think I'm here for the food, people. So yeah, that's me. So it's nice.
Awesome.
Hi to everyone.
Yay. Yeah. Thank you guys for doing this. This is exciting. Hello. Hi, Jenny. We're going to run through and say hi. Australia. Hello. Hi,
wow.
Awesome. 3 thumbs up before we start. It's going to be a great live show, guys. It's going to be good. Hello. Hi. Oh, we have a lot of people here. Hello. Oh, this is awesome. Who was this? What? I don't know if that was okay. Kim's from January. Hi. Okay, cool.
I was just like,
so. Okay, so we read Heartbeat Braves. Hopefully you guys were able to read along. I really liked this quite a lot. I kind of want to buy the rest of the series now, but we can talk about thoughts. I feel like I mean, I can talk about what I think, but I really would love, especially want to hear from Michelle and Kim, because I feel like they're going to have different and more insight into all of the things, because there's a lot that she addresses in this book, which I love romance that also has a lot more substantive content to it, and this one definitely does. So yeah. Oh, the name of the birthday person, the channel. Does she have a channel
Ren
name?
from Nootka Reads. If you follow me on Instagram, I do have a thread of a bunch of Indigenous creators, and so
Oh, awesome.
on that thread.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, somebody enjoyed it. Awesome. Still reading it. So who wants to, we could start with kind of what were your general thoughts, or do you have anything you want to talk about with this?
Yeah, sure. I read this last year. It was the Indigathon group book pick, and I remember I was probably in a completely different mood because I gave this it was a low 3, but this time I would probably give it like a 3.5, closer to like a 4, because I mostly skimmed it and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this part, and then I'm like, oh, and then but see, after I finished it, I remember talking to my friend Erin, who is also like a champion of this book. She really, really loves this book. She couldn't be here with us today, but we were considering her as well. But she was like hardcore defending this book, and she was like, just give it another chance. And I'm just like, I don't want to. But then this came up, and I was like, you know what? Fine, I will. And so I have a lot better thoughts about it today than I did a few months ago.
Good. It improved on a second read. Kim, what did you think?
I give this book 3.9576123 stars. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm the same as Michelle. I'm kind of like teetering between a 3.5 and a 4. I don't read a lot of romance, so but what I really enjoyed about this book was like the overlapping of an Indigenous experiences, especially for urban Indigenous population. And I was thinking about it, and I could not remember if the main character was Kurak or if she was from, but I feel like it almost wasn't on own voices, because there's multiple Indigenous nations and being represented in this book. So it's kind of like a pan-native story, but I really liked, so I feel that you can't really talk about almost, well, in my opinion, with just this book, you couldn't really talk about the romance without including all of these really awesome supporting characters, their struggles, what they value, like the elder community, and then also with urban organizations. I know they're like a huge resource for they were a huge resource for me. So I grew up on the res. I grew up on Hopi, and I went to school, and I didn't really have a whole huge Native population that I connected to until I went to a Native center on campus, and then it was just like, hey. So I think that those centers, those urban centers, especially when it comes to healthcare, are so important for the Indigenous community. So I have like so many notes on this book, but I think probably just like, well, I guess we'll talk about that more. But like Michelle, I'm kind of like, there's reasons why I took away a star. I mean, there were some things I had issues with, but overall, I feel like if you were to take out those things that I had issues with, I think my rating would have gone up a little bit more. But yeah, but I'm definitely interested in reading the next book. So
yeah. Cool. Yeah, I would like to read the next book too. I think my biggest complaint with this was the ending felt a little abrupt to me, but I think it's because it's going to continue on with the next book, and I do want to see what happens with the other characters. I really liked it. I mean, I'm probably tend to be a little more generous with my ratings anyway, but I gave it like a 4.5, and I rounded up on Goodreads, which like I thought it was good for especially for a self-published romance. The writing is pretty good, and the characters are pretty well developed. So I think that's the thing, is like in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm comparing this to other like indie published romances I've read, and for that, this was like a 4.5 for me. But yeah, I loved all the other stuff, the stuff about elder care and like thinking about because that's complicated, right? Is how do you deal with people you care about who are aging in a way that like helps them, but is also respectful of their, in their own choices about things. And that's so complicated. Like this gets into a lot of pretty intense stuff.
Yeah,
which I thought was
definitely
cool.
agree.
Yay. Okay, somebody gave it five. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars.
Awesome.
Started book 2. I love it. DNF no, but she said she's DNF 14 books this month. Okay, fair. Liked it but didn't
books?
love
Wow.
it. Yeah, it's a lot. Sounds like a rough reading month.
I'm in a slump too. Like I've only read 5 books this year, and one of our friends has read like, I don't know, something like 40 something, and I'm like, how are you doing this? I don't understand. Help me. Give me the theorem.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't say anything. Like I read a lot. But this is also like kind of my job, so it's a little different.
Yeah, Miss Awesome Saucy. I feel like the strongest part of this book wasn't necessarily the romance for me. It was like finding community. It was connecting and even almost that not really reciprocity, but really really seeing what Indigenous communities value. And one of those things in here was culture, and another one was the elder population, and then and then, well, in my opinion, also like kind of trying to fuse contemporary Native life with indigeneity. So it was, I really liked also, my favorite part of this book, hands down, was the Native humor. My husband, we were actually talking about this, and he's like, I've never heard you laugh so hard reading a book. What are you reading about? So there was times where I could see me having a conversation with these characters, like knowing these characters, and like, oh my gosh, I could totally see this person saying that. I think,
and there's a lot of teasing. There's a lot of teasing that you would think like other people would be like, oh my gosh, they were so mean to each other, but in like Native culture, you're like, no, they weren't being mean. They were just being nice to each other, and they were just making jokes.
I mean, I'm sure I didn't get all of it, but like I thought it was funny. There's definitely a lot of banter, especially later on, like in their relationship, which was great. It was fun.
Yeah, the thing with the banter was awesome. Like I love banter, but I also was kind of trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who maybe doesn't know Indigenous communities or Indigenous people. And then I was like, would they get this? Would they understand this? Or would they see character development here with banter? And me, I saw it, but if you don't understand Indigenous communities, so that's the thing that I had an issue with, was I wish the author put a little bit more narrative behind maybe this joke, or she's seeing Henry do this, right? So what is what is going on in her head by seeing him like communicate with elders? Because man, if you can get a pass with the elder community, you're in, man. Like if you can take your partner and you introduce them to your grandparent, and your grandparent isn't like, who's this right here, like, hey, how about hey, go wait outside, all right? You can we'll call you in. We'll call you in when it's time to eat, okay? So, or so instead of saying like, oh, hey, sit down, you know what I mean? So I think it's really interesting, like with Indigenous communities, like you, I think one of the people that I really enjoyed was Arnie. Is that Arnie? Arnie, the board president. I was like, oh my gosh, he is such a taha, which is like uncle, like the teasing and like, so yeah, so it's really interesting. So like in where I'm from, the uncles on the mother side, so the matrilineal side, uncles are disciplinarians, they're protectors, they're teachers, whereas the uncle on the dad's side, they're more affectionate. They tease, they're doting, right? They dote on you, they love you. Nothing can go wrong in the eyes of your well, we call them our nephews on our dad's side, but the mom's side, it's kind of like a lot of teasing, a lot of putting you in your place, and not so one of the things that I cracked up the most was when they went to that the mayor's office, was it? And she's
City
like,
Hall, yeah.
and she's like, oh, it would be really awesome if they had like a liaison, you know? And then he just cuts her off and he's like, well, yeah, it'd be really nice if Spider-Man existed too. That was so funny. Oh my goodness. Oh, I was laughing, like I straight put my book down and laughed for like a full minute, and everybody was just looking like, what are you laughing at? So at that part, oh my goodness, I was like, yeah, I was like, this is definitely written by a Native person. So
yeah, I mean, you could tell, even like not being part of that community, like it was clear that it felt real. Like the people, I think that's the thing, is like a lot of the interactions felt like things that could really happen.
I mean, it does. I think I don't know if like nonprofit work in the city, sometimes you have multiple Indigenous organizations competing for the same funds. You have a huge, right, pile of to-do lists. You have limited resources to do with the money and the fiscal funds that you have. And there are just so many issues. There's just so many issues with housing, with discrimination, with I mean, even now there's organizations that have popped up who are addressing the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and relatives. So there's just so many issues. And I was kind of like remembering like stuff I've learned in college, which is like now the urban Indian population is huge. It's like over 60% of natives live in urban areas now. So like, but sometimes
it was just 10 years ago, for sure. And like the attitude is a lot different because, you know, you have creators like on TikTok and here on YouTube that are cropping up and kind of turning around the narrative versus like, I remember 10 years ago and I would go on the reservation and like see my cousins and stuff and they would give me weird looks, and versus now it's just like, oh, hey, did you see so-and-so's TikTok? And it's like, wow, we're actually talking now.
Yeah. I think it's just because, well, part of the reason is like social media, it has been able to create that ability to tell our stories, to connect on a level where we all know like our homes, our native lands are so precious to us, and they create a sense of connection. But that connection can also be had with culture and with people. So even though one of the things that I enjoyed in terms of being in an urban community is just meeting so many different Native nations and people, and seeing like one of the things I enjoyed in this book was that they're talking about the drum group, right? Like I assumed it had to do with powwow singing and like being in that circle. Like that is something I truly connected to when they were talking about, oh, well, we don't, that's not part of our culture, but I know friends who sing. And that was so me. I was like, yeah, like I wasn't even introduced to powwow culture or dancing until I got to college. I was just like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, what's happening over here? Look at all the natives. But it's just, I mean, the fry bread sales, the Miss Native pageant. So I was just like, oh, okay, this is awesome. But
I miss that.
Yeah. So but it's also like, no, but this is what we do. in our community. So it's also been a really awesome time to share and to express and to what I love. Like I went to at my university is when people graduate and you see them wearing their regalia from their native nations. Oh, it's so beautiful to see the diversity in Indigenous communities in that area. And you're just like, whoa, where are you from? Like, you'll be meeting people at your last day, like graduating, like, oh, like your outfit, where are you from? So it's kind of like having that connection there with Indigenous communities, because even though we're not a monolith, like I think Michelle says this all the time too, is that we have our own cultures, languages, and everything, but we also have shared experiences. We have, yeah. So that's one of the things that I saw in this book that I really liked. And then to add on the joking about it, like, which is when they talk about, like, one of the parts where he says, yeah, we're used to being relocated. And I think that's like a huge joke with urban natives because of the Relocation Act. The reason why there's a huge population in the urban native community is because BIA came out with this federal legislation like in the 1950s, 60s, saying, hey, we want you to go to the city because they're trying to assimilate us. They want us to get away from our lands. But it's interesting because even though that did happen, native communities did go to the city to find employment or whatever, or go to school, they were still returning home. So it's just kind of like, it didn't really work out. They tried to assimilate us and colonize us and kind of tear us away from something that was familiar to us, but we actually just blew up. The population just went. But it also was a really important part of AIM, which is the American Indian Movement. It was a huge part of Indigenous organizations like, what is this, Crooked Rock? They also formed groups in the cities to protest against discrimination, and they went city to city, just saying, hey, this is what's happening in Indian country. We don't even have clean water. We're getting beat up in the cities and left for dead, and like our people are missing, and so all these issues. So it's really cool to have kind of humor kind of connect all the way back to those things, and it was really awesome. So I thought that was
it's
pretty
just
awesome.
Like you say, where like even at the heart of it all, and no matter how much they try to colonize and how much they try to get us to go over, and that no matter where you are, it's always the community that's like the heart of it all. Like you could leave, you could go goodness knows how many miles, but at the end of it all, you're still gonna be homesick, and you're still gonna want that, like, that community that unites all of us natives together. It's just the community of it all.
I can't push my chat because I don't want to get kicked out. I don't want to get kicked out again. But I didn't see the chat. But it says
I can.
But, okay.
I can put stuff up. I didn't want to like interrupt you.
Oh no, you can interrupt me. You can be like, hey.
No, it was good. I mean, well, and I think that's the thing, is this book is a lot about the community, and it shows so many things. I mean, you see them dealing with racism, dealing with microaggressions, dealing with discrimination. And it's intense, but like there's also this love story, which I enjoyed. Okay, this is an interesting question. Do you think the author wrote this book with an Indigenous audience in mind, or do you think she made this universal?
I think that part of it was tried to go universal, but I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple things that she said that me personally, I read and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like the way that she wrote that. Or I don't like the way that she said that. That was like, there was one thing about Lakotas and like dog eating that really just like got me out of the book, and I had to like take a few minutes to be like, and then kind of get back in it, because like, yeah, that was a thing that Lakotas did, but like that doesn't mean that's like, I didn't like that was the only thing that she said about Lakota people. So it's like, you put in these things, and like there's some jokes that like don't land for everybody.
Yeah. So I agree with Michelle. I feel like there were some areas where she did a really amazing job in just talking about the struggles of Indigenous people, but in order to make a joke, it was offensive to other Indigenous nations. I didn't appreciate that either, Michelle. I have friends who are Lakota, and I mean they're tired of the puppy eating jokes, and I thought that to be offensive, but I also thought it to be offensive to name the sexual positions after tribes. I was like, I don't know about that. That kind of like struck a chord in me, and I was like,
also a thing about like spirit animals too in there that I was like, I don't know about that, buddy.
Yeah, okay. I understand sometimes, especially with Indigenous people, there's jokes that we make that other people, like outside community, will be like, well, why did you say that? Isn't that offensive to you? But it's only because we also use humor as a defensive mechanism.
Sure.
Humor is a way for us to uplift community, especially in dire circumstances and things are stressful. Like it, and we try to keep things light and resilient, and to keep our mindset to
like
keep
literally
going forward.
someone will die. Someone could die, and then maybe like 20 minutes later, there'll be like a group, like your uncles and some cousins, and somebody says like the most dark stuff ever, and we're all like dying laughing.
Yeah, but I think I feel like, but if you are not Native, then I feel like she needed to put more context in there to say, like, maybe even have another dialogue to say, oh yeah, like I wouldn't appreciate it if like a non-Native person said this, or so. I feel that's what I was saying, to add more to the narrative, to in there, and I was just like, come on. But I mean, like you said, when authors are, whether it's a debut or like a self-published book, because I don't know if it was just me, but I caught some editorial stuff. I was like, wait, is she trying to sound like real Native and just make mistakes and not talk right? Or I was like, is she trying to sound broken? But so I was like, oh no, I think they just didn't catch it. But so yeah, but I agree with Michelle. There were some things in this book that kind of, I was just like, oh man, like I'm enjoying it, and then they would say this, and I was like, oh, bummer. But then I would kind of move on, and it would bring something positive out, and then so I feel like that's why I was saying, like, even with Indigenous authors, when they talk about other Indigenous nations, there could be some disconnect there. I mean, and unfortunately, like Michelle said, I mean, I would have been livid if somebody said something about my community, or they called one position like a Hopi. Oh, let's do the Hopi flip. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Or let's do the Hope. Never mind. I'm not gonna get.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, I think that's good perspective, because I think like I caught the sexual position thing and I was like, that's weird, but okay. But some of it, I think I probably didn't even notice, but it makes sense that like if you're more in tune with that, you would catch things like that. And I do think the stuff that I saw, I read it as like, oh, this is clearly like joking that would not be okay for, like, I could see that it was like not okay for other people to make the same kinds of jokes, but not necessarily every reader would see that. So I think that's an interesting thing, is like, how do you walk that line, and like, who are you writing the book for? And I do think it read to me like she was trying to do a little bit of both, like that there was somewhat educational, but also there were a lot of like in jokes and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
feel like she was trying to make it where everybody could get it, right? Or everybody.
Hmm.
But I was also trying to read it from a different perspective of like, if I wasn't Native or I didn't know, I didn't have any Native friends, like, would I get this? Would I
Yeah.
understand what's being said? But there was times where I was like, I think she needs a little bit more narrative here, or
Hmm.
even just adding a little bit more dialogue. So that's why that was another
Yeah.
reason why I didn't that my rating wasn't as high as it was.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But and then
I think
also
too, is this her first book? Because I'm curious too, like how things go later in the series, because like I think it's her debut. Am I wrong? Right?
I am not sure, but I'm actually tempted to read the rest just so that I can get a better reach on
Yeah.
everything. Because like,
who is that? I'm sorry, Michelle. Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna add a thing about how base like that kind of goes along with like the names of the sex positions and like the things that they bring up about other tribes, is that we, as you and I, Kim, as natives, we read that and we can understand it and joke about it, but there's also that like 10% of people that are not like non-native that will read that and then repeat that to somebody else. And so some of that
Right.
why I would have liked a lot better if it was better explained, or if there was a thing that was like, hey, just because you read this doesn't mean you should go out in the world and really repeat it to somebody else.
Right. Like just, well, I mean, sort of like just because just because like a Black person says the N word doesn't mean anybody else can use it. I mean, it's like a similar thing, right?
It like further perpetuates that those awkward stereotypes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say who was y'all's favorite character?
Oh.
I would say like Henry was I was definitely on Henry's. I was more so on Henry's side because like I loved Rayanne and I love her passion towards her work and her attention, but at the same time, I felt like she was very critical of Henry like all the time, even though he was just like, he's a struggling artist, and she kind of like there were things that she said that was like, or she didn't want to hear about his band or like things like that, and there was communication there that needed to be had, because like I just felt like she was a little too critical of him like all the time.
Interesting.
But I like Henry. I voted for him.
I really liked Henry, but I also loved Esther. So that's why I was saying I wanted to continue the series, because the next book is about Esther, and she's just so funny. What did she say?
She's hilarious.
Like when she was at this show and she's like, "Wow, you look good," and she's like, "I feel like a greyhound in a tube sock," or something. She's making fun of herself, and she's like, so I was like, okay, she's probably like pretty lean and skinny, and then to be like in like a tight dress, and I was like, so I was cracking up, and then to hear her like, hey, what's going on here? And then they're all like awkward at work, and then she's like, like, and then she just walks off. So I thought that was so funny. So funny. But I really liked her. She was funny, and I agree with Rayanne. I feel like with her, I was like, well, why is she so critical? Like, why is she looking at him this way? And then you find out later she's been raised by her grandparents, and how our grandparents can maybe be a little bit critical. So maybe that's a cultural disconnect that she didn't quite fully flesh out. Like, why?
I mean, it seemed to me it was because of her mom, which I thought was really interesting, because her it seemed like she felt like she had to be perfect because her mom wasn't, which I thought was interesting, because her mom like was kind of an addict and like left and had issues and stuff. And so I don't know, that was how it read to me, at least, was that like part of her perfectionism was because she was like trying to be the perfect daughter that her mom wasn't, like to her grandparents, which I thought was interesting. But see, I liked Ray. I was like, probably because I was more of a perfectionist when I was younger. So I was like, I relate to you. I get it. Like, I get being hypercritical and having to learn to chill. But
Yeah, I was a hot mess. Like I was just
mhm.
like, like not
Um,
really.
so
Yeah.
Kimberly on the chat, I was looking at
Oh,
this.
I'm like way back. We have so many comments. I've just been like,
It's
okay.
totally I like to bring up the side chat just so I can kind of
Yeah. No, it's
look
good.
at things. But she says, I'm curious how you guys felt about the use of the word Indians so
Oh
much.
yeah.
Reading reviews, some people had an issue with it and others didn't seem to. I
Mhm.
think personally, this is for me, I don't like being called an Indian by non-natives and even some non-natives who I don't know. I don't like being called Indian, but like my mom still says it because she's an older person and she's been like victim of circumstance and intergenerational trauma, and like she raised me. She's actually my grandmother, so I was raised by my grandmother, so I had like interesting perspective on Rayanne, so that's why I was
Mhm.
kind of like, but I personally, I don't like being called Indian. I'd rather be called native, even by other natives. But like if it's my uncle or like my cousin or something and they say something about, oh, you're an Indian, then I'm like, it's okay if they say it, but like if somebody I don't know, even if they're native, they don't say it, then I'm like, no, I'm native. Don't call me that.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Indian now is like a generational term. Like you see people who are of the older generations using Indian a lot more because that's basically what we were termed, right? It
Mhm.
has a, even now the federal definition says, okay, who is an Indian? How do we define Indian because of enrollment in all that oppressive systemic stuff that we have to deal with in terms of blood quantum and all those things. So even now in federal law, we don't call it indigenous communities or nations. We call it Indian country. So I mean, or I think with us, we have slang, right? We have res, we have home, we have um like Michelle said, I mean, we joke between me and my friends. We'll say, "What's up, Indian?" Like, "Hey, we're going Indian." Like, "Where are you going?" Like, just stuff like that to be funny. But
Mhm.
like, if I heard somebody who wasn't native call me that, and it wasn't, I'd be like, honestly, I'd just be really pissed. But now we're native communities are starting to say, well, we don't even like to be called Native American Native American either because we predate America. I mean,
Mm.
just we like to be called as where we're from. Like Michelle,
Mm.
she always says, "Oh, I'm not." I think the broader term that we use is Indigenous, but at the end of the day, I like to be called Tewa Hopi, or I'm from the Hopi Nation, and so I think with this book, I know maybe people do have issues with the word Indian being used so often, but that's still very much ingrained, unfortunately, in our systems in the United
Mm.
States, in our federal laws, in our. So I think I there was times I did have a problem with it though,
Mhm.
but
I agree.
I think it really depends on the context of what is going on in the story. And I don't, and you can see even some authors, like older authors, they use
Mhm.
Indian a lot. Like they
Yeah.
hardly ever use Indigenous, or so it's
Mm.
changing now. But and I'm not saying I'm giving people a pass to be like, oh, this book is using Indians, so we can call them Indians. But no, that I'm
No, that
sorry.
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
really irritated me. When David Wyden's book came out, Winter Counts, I heard so many white creators saying Indian reservation, and I'm like, oh my god, please stop. Just because it's on the book doesn't mean you should say that. Just say the
Yeah.
reservation name. Like, don't. Ooh. It
Yeah.
irritated me so much. I was all up in people's comments. I was like, I don't care. Just stop.
Which I mean, I think that's like important to say, right? So people kind of are aware because it's true. It's interesting with what you say with the generational thing because like I've seen interviews with Stephen Graham Jones, for instance, and he uses the term Indian a lot, and there's more is what he prefers, but he's older too. Like, and so it's interesting.
Stephen
Like I
Graham
think that's
could literally write anything. He could write corn constantly on paper, publish it. I would buy it full on hardcover, foiled, autographed, illustrated. Doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
He's good.
Michelle loves Stephen Graham Jones. Like,
I really
he's great.
do. I
Yeah.
actually fan casted him as Tommy from Winter Counts, and I told that to David Whiten, and David Whiten him freaking self. He's basically my Lexi, my uncle, and he was like, I'll have to tell him about that. And I was like, full on native fangirling.
Yeah. He's great. He's super chill and like, yeah, he's great. That's so funny. Okay, so there's like, I'm like trying to scroll up because we have so many comments, which is great.
Oh, Bethany, who was your favorite character?
Who was my favorite character? Oh, I don't know. I'm actually really interested to see Arnie and Linda get together because I think they're going to, and I'm really interested to see that dynamic because like they're kind of like, I think there's going to be some friction there. I'm excited to read that book. I don't know.
There's a grumpy sunshine thing going on a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I think it's fun. Yeah.
So
I don't know. We'll see.
The only thing I had problems with was like trying to gauge like ages and like what they looked like kind of thing. That I think it kind of took me out of the story. It was like, wait, how old are they?
There's not a lot of description. I mean, that's true.
But I liked it. What were you gonna say, Kim? Sorry.
I was like just sticking people like that I knew in these characters. I was like, okay, that's my uncle, that's my auntie, and oh my gosh. Remember when what was she talking about? One of the older elders, like, hey, yeah, I like her, she's nice, blah blah blah. And she was like, yeah, but then remember
Margie
like,
or something.
Yeah, her husband likes her too. Oh, okay, better leave her alone then.
So I also better leave her alone.
And it's so funny. It's such a cultural thing because when natives, you have to say something. Like you have to be like, well, why? All right, why y'all quiet over there? How come you didn't say that? You know that you just weren't gonna do anything. So what you up to, huh? But he's like, oh, okay, I'll leave her alone then.
So I think this is kind of interesting, that it's accessible but more straight up contemporary than romance heavy. I mean, it does to me read like a women's fiction crossover. Like if you were gonna, like it's, but it has a romance. Like I liked the romance, but yeah, it's got a lot of other stuff for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I was low key disappointed because me personally, personally, I think sex is really important in books, in romance especially. So like anything when it comes to like fade to black, I just despise it. I like reading about like, so I didn't get that in this, and I was expecting at least some, and it does
it's closed door.
This much, but it's mostly fade to black and like, like as if you were watching it on TV. So you see that little bit, but you don't see like everything. And I like everything.
Everything.
I think it's important. Personally, I think it's important because a lot of people have unrealistic gauges of what romance really is. And so I like different types of romance that encapsulate different parts.
Well, I can promise you that next month's book will not be fade to black because it's the Harlequins.
I love Harlequin. I love Harlequin so much. I started reading those when I was like 15 or something like that. I had like a whole stack of them. Just, it was an obsession.
I mean,
yeah, I was the same, Michelle. I was kind of hoping for some steaminess, and I mean, it didn't have to be thick, but like a lot. But I mean, what is this building up to? Like, I saw Miss Awesome Saucy said they kind of like, what was their chemistry like? What? And it's really interesting because with me, I think it was just because of banter. Like, I could see body language happening there. Like with, I don't know if it's just because I'm native. I could see teasing and touching happening. But again, if you're if you're not native, then you wouldn't know this was going on. I think also when you're with indigenous communities, like I was saying to Michelle, if you're able to like, hey, my grandpa likes this person, or you know what, like that is a huge thing. It is huge. Like that, like even just that, when you have a shoo-in with grandparents or even aunties, right, Michelle? When your auntie
you gotta
approves
get past
of this
the auntie,
person,
and then you gotta get past the grandma. You know, you have to, there's different levels of it. Because if auntie don't like you, then oof, just don't show up. Just don't show up. Just break up, move away. Because then you'll never get in with grandma unless she has a
oh
soft.
my gosh. I legit, this is a true story. One time I brought over somebody to eat dinner with us, and my auntie was like, oh, hey, who are you? Who's your mom? Who's your grandma? What clan are you? Oh, okay. How come? He's like, and then he was like, oh, okay, getting interrogated, right? And then he or she was like, are you gonna go back out to your car? And then he was like, what do you mean?
Wow.
Are you gonna go back out to your car? And he was like, because you didn't bring anything with you. You didn't bring anything. Where's your soda, huh? Well, oh, you're just gonna come in here and eat all our food?
Oh no!
You're done.
No.
That's it.
I was like, hey, you better go to the store right now, right? Just go to the store right now. Yeah, just go right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
fun
stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like
Calvin's white, so like I brought him around my family, and that was like a whole different experience because they're like, "Why are you dating a white guy?" I'm like, "Cause he's." I don't know. And they're like, I said, but then I was like, well, he's going into the Marines. And they're like, oh, okay. So that was like a different level because we have so many, we had so many people in our family. So it was like he's like plus. And then they're like, oh, what kind of food does he like? And I was like, I don't know, he eats anything. And he eats anything. And so they love to like spoil him and make him all different kinds of food, and he eats it. He doesn't complain. So they really just love him. But when it came to like him meeting like my aunts and stuff like that, they were like, oh my gosh, he's so nice and whatever. And then my grandma was like, isn't that your husband? And I was like, Grandma, I'm 19. I'm not even married yet. She was like, okay.
That's so funny.
It's so funny. It's interesting because, like, well, so because my in-laws are Black, and they're wonderful. But it's funny because when my husband was like called to talk to them, it was like getting, relationship was getting serious. His mom was kind of like a little like concerned at the beginning, and she felt better that he had like tried dating Black girls. It didn't work out. Like, and then we met, and she was like, "Oh, she's not so white. Like, she's not super pale." Like,
oh wow. Yeah, with me, it was so fun. So my husband, we were high school sweethearts. So it was interesting because he's from a completely different tribe. And when I was scared, we were low key, like under the radar dating for a while. I didn't want to tell my family that I was with a person from another tribe. And when I finally told them, they were like, oh, okay. Well, we better meet this person. So brought him over. And then most of my family worked at the high school. My grandmother was an attendance clerk. My uncle was in the cafeteria. My other grandma was a facilities person. Basically, when you have a grandma working at the high school, everybody knows your business. You can't get away with nothing. It's just like they might as well write a newsletter and drop it off at everybody's house about what's going on with the grandkids. And you're just like, how did you know about that? Oh, Grandma just dropped by. I'm like, oh man, okay. But when they met him, they loved him because he was a good student. He's like
Mhm.
was this really shy person and really quiet. And it was so sad. So when I brought him over, they're like, "Oh, it's Thurman." They're all hugging him and they're like talking to him. "Why are you with her?"
Oh
I
no.
was like,
Opposite
wow,
reaction.
okay.
Wow. Okay.
Like why with her? She's just then they just started like they almost treated him like family, and then I was the like person that they didn't want him to be with. I was like, okay, fine then, just go on then. I'm
man.
fine. I'll just come back later. I'll pick you up. Just let me know
So
when you want to go
funny.
home. Yeah.
Oh, this is so
But-
funny, Rachel. Her in-laws are Puerto Rican. The first time we went over to their house, they wanted me to eat the traditional rice and beans. It was like a test. If I didn't like the food, relationship over. Look, food is important.
Yeah.
It was
It's very
like when I first met my in-laws, it was like, oh, we're gonna eat some gumbo because they're from Louisiana, and like you're gonna like yes. Mm-hmm.
You never say you're not hungry. That is the chopping knife. If you go over to a Native person's house, even if you're not dating, you're a friend of the family, don't ever say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm not hungry." You eat it. You eat it all. And then you ask for more. And then you take the leftovers the grandma gives you.
Yep.
So just letting you guys know that now.
Good advice. Good advice. So I wanted to come back to this, because I noticed this too, and I mean, I think this is a real issue, not just for Native authors, but for other indie authors too. That like there aren't a lot of great stock photos, and so because she said, you might be wondering, are these actually Indigenous people? And she said, no, I would love to have them. Let me know if you have that available. And so I do think that's rough for indie authors who are paying for their own covers and usually doing stock photos, how little there is available that's not just like white people,
Yeah. I remember also being disappointed by that as well, because I remember when I got it, I was like, are those native?
Yeah. No.
Well, they look this guy looks off white. Might be a
they
little
look pretty white. I mean, they do.
side. So like I was just slightly disappointed, but I was but see, the thing is that there's a lot of natives that have lighter skin rather than darker skin. Like my son, he's got lighter skin, but he's still native. So like there is some of that like colorism. So I was just mostly like, wait, is that and then I looked in there and I saw that it said on there about the thing. I was like, oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. If there's any and she says if you are or know of any cute Indian couples who have good pictures you could use for book covers, that would be like a cool thing if somebody started like something where it was like a set of stock photos of people with different ethnicities that could be used for stuff like this, because it seems like that's really something that we could use more of. But
I would have just tried to opt for like a illustrated cover, because like now that those are illustrated covers are popular, so I would have loved like in the future, if any future authors are seeing this, please make it illustrated.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this like came out in 2016, so like it's kind of a different. But yeah, no, I hear you. This is funny. Everybody's commenting on like the food thing. Yes, never go there hungry, even if you're full. You're eating. Eat it. Yeah.
Oh my God, country crock butter tubs. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. Oh yeah, you eat the food they cook for sure.
His family, the leftovers come in and wash. They do not eat them. It's the worst.
Oh, this is a cool idea. Love to see Native booktubers and bookstagrammers remake the cover. That would be kind of cool if people like did something like that.
Future video idea.
Hey.
I'll be Henry.
You'll be Henry.
I'm not good at illustration, but I'll take a whack at it.
Just put this under my hat or something.
Yeah. This is interesting. She said the same issue from a lot of Black love romance authors she follows. There's only so many photos to choose from, and you don't want multiple similar books with the same cover. Yeah, that's rough. This is so good. Who made it? Yeah.
And if you're eating it and you don't like it, just kind of make it like a little pile just to make it look like you ate it, you know?
Mix it around with other things.
Yeah, mix it around.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so other things were like, I know we've talked a little bit about this, but like, were there other things that you didn't love about the book?
I agree with what you said. I feel like I felt like it was building up well, and then it just went thin. And
yeah,
I feel like also that the conclusion in terms of what happened with the building, I was like, what happened? I was kind of lost there. I felt like it wasn't explained very well for me. And then I was like, oh, that could have been a really good way to say, oh, they're racist, they don't want to give us, or maybe the paperwork fell through and maybe Linda got in trouble because she was supposed to sign something but she didn't. So I kind of thought that was gonna happen, but so I was like, wait, where's this going? So I felt like it was kind of just
like it sounds like that whole plot point is going to be continued in book 2, but like I do wish we'd gotten more of some kind of a resolution. I thought the ending was a little abrupt.
Yeah, because they put so much on the festival, and so like I just personally wonder if maybe Pamela Sanderson has tried to organize anything like this herself, because like in my family, we hold when someone dies a year later, we have what we call a memorial, and we do a giveaway, usually right surrounding a powwow. And we usually take like a long time to prepare. We're speaking with different people on like donation items, or like raising the money to get the items ourselves, cake, stuff like that, food. And so I feel like there wasn't a lot of preparedness in some of the event stuff that they were talking about. It was just like the event versus like, what do you actually have to do to organize something like this? Because like, even in my brain, I haven't really done a lot of work with organizing giveaways myself in my family. I'm always that one person that's like, I can bring X thing, but other than that, I'll probably be responsible for like finding Google images or like printing things off or scanning. I'm not usually somebody that's like telling people what to do, you know, but like eventually my time will come where I'll have to tell everybody what to do and like talk to cousins that I don't even know who they are and stuff like that. But like, I just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of like event stuff that was like more specialized. It was just always like something very general. So I personally wonder if Pamela Sanderson ever had to put something like this together herself or like in her family.
Interesting.
I don't know, maybe Kim can relate to me a little bit on this, because
we do tons of events and conferences, and on top of us organizing all of these conferences, we're also presenting, and usually it's pretty complex stuff, like in like criminal jurisdiction in our area, like what national legislation is coming up in terms of sex trafficking laws. So those things can be pretty stressful, but I think like the way she thinks about stuff like in organizing and planning, and I saw I could relate to some of the stuff, but how things fell off. I feel like I haven't had that happen before, luckily, but it all just ended so soon. And I mean, they were able to kind of have like a mini thing at the end, and which was also pretty like just fast. I don't know if she just wants to wrap it up real quick and then just kind of go into the next book. But I also saw that some characters were really thought out. But then there was certain times where I would get lost because I wanted more. Like, what is up with the relationship between Henry and his mom? like what's going on there. I feel like that wasn't fully explored. Or even with, I wanted more of Rayanne and her mom, like more of that. I feel like the supporting characters were pretty awesome. I was just like, whoa, these are pretty the dynamic of finding community. And that theme was really strong. And I enjoyed that part. But like Michelle said too, like in terms of the romance, I wish there was just a little bit more. I mean, when things were getting, starting to get hot, I was like, oh, okay. And I was like,
oh. And then it was like, and fade to black. And the next morning, like, which I'm okay with. Like, I read stuff like that too, which is okay. But yeah, I was like,
yeah. I mean, I don't mind stuff that's fade to black, but give me a little bit more, But I love the part where where they were talking about, she's like, you better put me down or we're gonna break our necks, like where you're talking about that. And then remember, he's on the floor like trying to take off his shoes. He's like, is this getting you going? I wish there was more of that, because sometimes like when you're in a relationship, things can
like
be
real
awkward
life is more that way. You never see that in books. I thought it was funny too. I was like, yeah, that sounds like something that would actually happen.
So I appreciated that awkwardness. I just wanted more of it. Like, I
feel like if this book had been longer, honestly, because it, like, I liked what it was doing, but it ended abruptly, and I agree, like, it could have gotten into things more, because it's not very long. It's only like 260 pages.
Like 280 pages, and we would have been
even like 300 or 320. Like, if it had, like, if we'd had gotten another like 50 to 80 pages, like, I think it could have really been very good. But yeah. I can never think of a treasure chest the same way again. the condom treasure chest.
Did he call it pirate condoms?
Yeah, well, because it was like shaped like a treasure chest, and she wanted it at a bachelorette party.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, I hope they're not expired. How long ago was this bachelorette?
You know what's funny? I thought about that too. I was like, wait, what?
Look, you know what? When you have had the experience of like trying to not get pregnant, you're like, you make sure those expiration dates are not passed.
The banter was great.
I was thinking exactly that. Look, that's so funny. Like, how long have those been sitting in your bathroom? But
there's like dust on it.
Yeah.
Dusting it off. But like, hey, let's just hold off, right? Let's just hold off. And you would think like when they were together again, she'd buy new ones, but so I was like, maybe it wasn't that long ago. So I don't know.
I hope I will give it the benefit of the doubt and hope so. Yeah, me too. I was like, how long ago was this bachelorette party? That's exactly what I was.
They could have made a Walmart run in between their jangling times and playing.
Oh my gosh, what was that one movie where they're trying to have sex and they're running around for condoms? It was an older movie.
Oh, I don't know, but that sounds vaguely familiar.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's gonna bother me until I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Was it Trojan War? Is it Trojan War? I gotta look this up.
I don't know. That's funny. I don't know.
That's gonna bother me forever now.
Yeah. I will say, like, I really did like the side characters. Like, this left me partly because it ended so abruptly. I was like, well, I clearly need to read book 2 to find out what even happens with the building, because, like, you kind of left us on a cliffhanger there. Really? But also, I want to know what happens with the other characters. Like, I think
because, like, I personally really love like all of the stuff, but like even if I hadn't gotten all the stuff. If you weren't going to give me all stuff, at least give me like the love and like the affection and the holding hands and like the kisses and the forehead kisses and like the soft parts, the gooey cinnamon
Yeah,
roll
there's
pie.
not a lot of that. No, you're right. There's not
I
a
would
lot
have
of
loved
soft
that.
stuff.
Like, if you're not going to give me one thing, give me the other thing.
Yeah. Which, like, I guess I'm okay with having a relationship that's more like this, where I'm like, they're like friends and love. You know what I mean? Like, there's like a friendship dynamic, but a romantic friendship, I guess. But I hear what you're saying. Like, it's not a soft, like, hey, yeah. She was like, how about glow in the dark? And he's like, let's just go with lubed and ribbed for her pleasure.
Oh my god. Relate.
Yeah.
Oh man. But there were times in this book where it kind of took me back to me and my husband dating. Like, just because of this book, I was talking about things with my husband, and I was like, do you remember when this? He was like, oh yeah. I was like, do you remember when this? He was like, oh yeah. Like, it was funny, like, just having that conversation with him. And he says this all the time. When I tell him about books that I'm reading, and he's like, man, I should write a book. I could totally write a funny book. I was like, could you write a funny, steamy book? He's like, I don't know. What kind of verbs do you use with stuff like that? I was like, he's all, do you use, I don't know. I think I would try to make it sound sexy, and they would just end up being funny. And I was like, what?
That's okay too.
But but I think the humor was, even if there was no romance in this, I would have been okay with just the humor alone, even if the romance was just like me, like if they, I feel like, because I read the word nipples, right? And I got excited. I was like, oh yeah, they're going to finally be together. And then I was like, oh man. Like, I was like, okay, just give me all the fluff and the soft stuff. Or that's it. Or just nothing else. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh.
Exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said, because I was dying. I was a flower that was just, the cartoon flowers were just flumped over. One of the leaves is like steaming. That was me.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was like less bothered by it than you guys, although I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the closed door thing. That's fine. But I think what's interesting to me about this book is it's like a lot of romances are more of the like fantasy or like the aspiration. And this feels more like, oh, this is my friend's love story. Like this feels more like, oh yeah, this is like how people in real life would actually get together. And so, it's different. So I liked it, but I think it's got a different vibe than like some other romance. I don't know. Maybe people in the comments who are romance readers know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I like some more like fantastical stuff.
You like more fantastical stuff, yeah.
Just a little bit, like not go crazy or anything. Just a scotch.
Something a little like.
I was on. I watched one of Ashley's Bookish Realms. She did a video like top 15, whatever books of 2020, and she talked about a book called Dare. So I was like, you know what? I think that's free on Goodreads. I'm gonna go check that out. And I read it, and I was like, wow. Okay, there's some serious content warnings for that book, but I was like, my glasses were fogging up. I was like, week, and I was like, whoa, this is a good book. Like, I mean, the plot wasn't like everything, but just like, yeah, it was good. It was interesting. It was like a pretty good book.
Yeah. I mean, I like both, I guess is the thing. Like, I'm okay with reading like and I guess the thing is too, is like, I do like reading both because I know some people who watch don't like sex in their romance. Like they don't want the explicit content. And so I like to be able to be like, hey, if that's you, here are some books that you can check out. But I also like, we're gonna have it all. But I'm telling you, like a Harlequin Desire, like we're for sure gonna get like actual.
Thank goodness. I need
Oh,
it.
okay. Maybe I don't think I can participate in the live discussion, like I said, but I'll definitely read it and I'll be on the chat. Be like, hey,
Cool.
steamy glasses.
Yeah. Because someone's like, get Kim a fan.
Give me a towel because I'm so sweaty.
Well, yeah,
this.
because
I'm
when
here
it was-
for the fantasy
it
and
was
steam, not my friends.
to me as like a Indigenous romance, and like, you know, like didn't really mention the fact that there was a lot of talk about work and red tape and stuff like that. So if they had been like, oh, there's red tape and then there's a little bit of romance, I'd have been like, okay, I would have adjusted my expectations. But then I was going in this thinking of like, you know, something like Talia Hibbert or Christina Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got
it was not that.
it was not that.
It was
So I was
not
like,
that.
oh.
Yeah.
But then Aaron was like,
Yeah.
no, you need to give it another chance. You need to be fair to it. I was like, oh, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
like
it had-
expectations matter. Yeah.
Well, Aaron usually recommends pretty good reads. I mean, I liked like a lot of stuff in this book. There's little issues here and there, but I think I'll continue with the next book. Because I liked Esther. I was like, oh man, me and Esther would be like, you know, talking. We'd be like checking out people together. Like, oh yeah, she's cute. Yeah, oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I really like Esther. Tommy was another interesting character. Because he didn't, so I felt like there's a little something going on there because he doesn't drink, right? So I was like, oh, okay, is that purposeful? Like, why'd they put that in there? And then also what you said, Bethany, when you were talking about Linda, right? Linda and Arnie. I really like Arnie. He's like your typical Indigenous uncle.
He's funny.
Like,
Yeah.
you just shake your head at him, or you're just like, did he just say that for real? But yeah. So I'm kind of I'm curious to see where that goes. Is there 4 books or 3? There's 3, right?
4. There's 4.
There's 4. Okay.
There's 4. I just added them all to my wish list so I can buy them later. Yeah, there's 4.
What's the next book called?
Hold on, let me pull it up. For anybody who's wondering, I will tell you. All right, so book 2 is Lovesick Braves. Book 3 is Sweetheart Braves. And book 4 is Crooked Rock Braves. So, there you go.
Crooked Rock.
Oh, they're on Scribd. Oh, like the ebooks? Good to know.
Oh, thank
Good.
you.
That is very good to know. Awesome.
What
so
is-
Nicole is planning to continue with the series. That's awesome. Yeah, I want to. Excited for Robin Covington. Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited for that too.
I know Heather was just really from HA BookTubes. Oh, you got it. They're doing this Indigenous read along. I know you said you wanted to try romance, and I was like, oh man. Now I gotta put my I gotta talk the talk. I gotta walk the walk, not talk the talk. I guess I gotta read a romance, but I'm typically not really a romance reader, but I guess I'm gonna start.
People say that until they find the right ones, and then you might be, you know. So people are saying they're on Hoopla also if you have a library card, so that's good to know.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So yeah
that's cool.
Which I guess, speaking of which, we could announce next month, the live show. We've been talking about the book for April is Seducing His Secret Wife by Robin Covington, which should be fun. And the live show for this is going to be at the same time on Thursday, April 29th. So the last Thursday of the month, 8:30 p.m. EDT, 5:30 PST. I don't know. This got a little confusing because we had a time change, like we had like daylight savings between like anyway, but yeah. So that's
We have 2 time zones in Arizona. It's really weird.
so confusing. It's so confusing. They need to make things more simple. Come down the rabbit hole with us. I mean,
I don't
you
know.
know what?
Didn't get lost in the rabbit hole. I might not come out again.
It depends
okay,
on
great.
who
It's all great.
you start with, personally.
Hmm?
I said it depends on who you start with, because depending on which route you go, because there's like the romance genre is huge, and there's so many different authors that, you know, you might read one author but then like completely despise another, you know.
Yeah, well, like, and that's the thing is, it's like it takes some trial and error to find what works for you and what doesn't. I mean, I only got into romance after starting BookTube, so I haven't been a romance reader for a long time, but I love it when I find the right things. But there's some stuff that I'm like, nope, it's not for me. I'm glad you enjoy that, but that's okay.
I like Harlequins, but I also really like the in the Harlequins, like one of my more those genres I like more is when like there's like it's always that like rescuer like damsel trope in Harlequins. I was just like I would read the description, and anytime I would just like set it aside, and then the ones I had my little stack of like so and so something happens, and officer blah 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 blah, where he's got like this really strong name, has to rescue so and so, like girl that has costume. Will they blah 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 blah? What will happen? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, sign me up. I want to see it all. I want to see him. I want to see something bad happen and him to get mad and just go John Wick on everybody.
See, this is the thing. There's so many tropes for romance. And like it, like whereas this, I'm excited because this has like a secret impromptu marriage. So it's like a like I love that. I love like they hook up in Las Vegas and end up getting married, and then like they're hiding the fact that they're married, and she's his best friend's little sister.
Oh my goodness! Yes, that's gonna be good. 5 stars already. Yep.
The girl is the guy's best friend's little sister, so his best friend. It's
it's kind of like, what was that show called? Anyway, yeah. As long as I think I need to just find out what I.
I
love it.
I think I just need a. I mean, I like smut. I like smut. I read Dare and I was like, oh, okay, I think I can do this, but also have more plot. I love fluff. I think I wouldn't mind historical romances. Shoot. I don't know. I think I
have a lot of those.
Kim, I'm gonna have to give you some recommendations when we're like done with this. I'll give you some things to try. They're we'll get you. We'll give you some good options.
Love the nuts.
Alien smut and then cute and look. Yes, there. I mean, everything. We love it all. It's good. Explore, Kim.
Ooh, alien smut. What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if you want something that is like a little out there, but well written with good characters and world building, you could try Ruby Dixon.
Wasn't there one?
So she's known for her Ice Planet Barbarian series. But which I have read and it's pretty out there, but like I actually prefer her Rizdiverse books. People are saying, yeah, Ice Planet Barbarians. I prefer the Rizdiverse books, especially if you like a marriage of convenience where they get married and then fall in love. I really like that in a story. So but she writes these kind of, it's a little out there, and it's like the premise is that these human women have been kidnapped by bad aliens as like sex slaves, basically, and then escape or get rescued or something, and then have to have these marriage of conveniences with these good aliens, and it's like human women with aliens. It's like out there, but like it's good. They're good. They really, yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, man.
We
I'm
all
all
think we.
down
I
for
know.
some
I mean, this is exactly
alien
it. I was
slow
like, there.
burn and yearning. Yeah.
I was like, there's no way I'm going to be into this with the blue aliens. And then we read that, yes, this is exactly it. You think like this is too weird, but then they're really good. She's actually a very good writer and has good characters and stuff. So the looks on Kim's face. Yeah.
I can't remember. Oh, it's the bone season. So that is a pretty awesome fantasy world, but man, I was just so into the romance between the warden and I can't even remember her name now. I was just like, I think he's kind of like an alien. He's not human, but I was
he's
like,
not human.
whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Okay, we're gonna make you a list. We're gonna make you like a reading list, Kim. We're gonna hook you into romance. You just wait. It's gonna be
good. Yeah. I'll ride it all on my arm.
Love it.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, well, so for this, because we're at like almost an hour and a half, do you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about with the book or?
Yeah, I kind of want to touch a little bit on what Kim said about the elders and like I really like how I really liked the conversation between about like Rayanne and her grandpa and how do you care for someone who still has so much independence and like wants to be independent, but yet like she was constantly worried about him and like everything that went on with him and things like that. And I kind of experienced the same thing with my mom. My mom is very much independent. She's still in her own apartment, but like there will come a time where she won't be as spry, but she'll still have that I can do this myself mindset. So it's just like I related to Rayanne in that aspect, especially because some elders can be very cranky if you like try too hard to like baby them or they think that you're like smothering them.
Yeah. I mean, and I think in general, that's like an issue that can come up, you know, if you're with people who are caring for parents or grandparents, like it's complicated and yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that was really good.
Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, because Kim, you said you had notes, and did we discuss them all?
Yeah, I'm just gonna shout out some urban indigenous organizations.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Or yes, do that. Organizations, you guys, for like to support or follow who are doing good work. That's right. Good thought.
Okay, so a huge one is the Urban Indian Health Institute. Do you remember Tommy? So he is the character who's trying to fix the bus, running elders to their appointments. So that organization actually does a lot of work with that. So I really appreciate this organization because when I was in Phoenix and I had a daughter at the time, she was only a year old and no, 3 years old. And in order for her to get into daycare, she had to have a dental exam. So I went to IHS, which is Indian Health Services, and the next appointment they could get me into was like 6 months later. So, but there was this other urban Indian organization providing healthcare, and they got me in like in 2 days, and they were able to get my daughter a dentist exam, and they paid for everything. And I was so, I don't even know what I was going to do. I was just in a really tight spot. So Urban Indian Health Institute is a pretty, also the Minnesota Indian Women Sexual Assault Coalition, they are doing phenomenal work in the city. I think it's St. Paul or Minneapolis, especially with the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit relatives. They are doing amazing work. They're helping out with pushing legislation, and they're so if you want to donate to them, they're incredible. The
what is
NIWRC.
say it again? Minnesota.
Okay. So if you do MUSAC, MIWSAC, and then there's also the NIWRC, which is the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. There's also Native American Connections. They're a nonprofit that does multiple drives for a whole bunch of things. So like clothing and food and all kinds of stuff.
Right? Maybe type it, or are you in the chat at all?
Okay, MUSAC.
Just so we can get it on the screen for people to see.
Okay. There's also Native American Connections. Awesome. There's also the National Urban Indian Family Coalition. They're pretty amazing. NIWRC. Awesome. The Native American Rights Fund. Oh my goodness, this organization is completely awesome. So I don't know if you guys are follow like different organizations on Instagram or Twitter. If you guys see feeds like, hey, this Indigenous community is fighting for water rights, like no DAPL, right? Those types of things. So those kinds of organizations, which is the Native American Rights Fund, they help with legal fees, like people who are arrested for protesting and those types of things. That is a pretty awesome organization. Also, the American Indian College Fund. As we all know, there's tons of there's this myth out there, right, Michelle, saying that, oh, all natives have casino, they're rich, and they get all their education paid for. No.
No, we don't. When I was applying for college, I got like a 17 on my first ACT, and they were like, in order for you to go to just the basic college here in South Dakota, you need an 18 at least. So I had to take my ACT over, and then I was like, okay, well, I had my relatives that were in the tribe offices, and I was like, maybe they can like send me some paperwork and like get it fast tracked, and they were like, no, that's not happening. You're going to have to sign this, get this form, and maybe in 6 months, we might be able to give you like $200, maybe. I was like, well, thanks for nothing. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
And as you know, Indigenous communities, they experience so much hardship when they go to school. The rates for sexual assault for women ages 16 to 24, it's like at a rate of 58% right now. So the old statistic used to be 1 in 3 women, Native women, are more likely to be sexually assaulted, but now it's like half. So those rates, and actually the rates are a lot worse in urban areas, and a lot of these rates aren't reported, right? Most of the time, as we all know, people who have been sexually assaulted usually don't report. So I would say that organizations like NIWRC and MUSAC, they're so essential in providing or connecting sexual assault survivors and even DV survivors and sex trafficking survivors to advocacy services and Strong Hearts, what is it called? Strong Hearts Helpline. That is another resource too. So you can call Strong Hearts Native Helpline. It's a 24-hour hotline, and Native women, the advocates on the phone are specifically Native women or Native advocates. And then no matter where you are, like even if you're in an urban area, they will connect you to somebody that can help you directly. So they're a really awesome resource out there as well for our urban natives. And so there's tons. Me and Michelle can probably talk about tons of organizations that are existing out there. But another way too that you can support Indigenous communities is engage with them, support their channel, support their support Indigenous artists, support Indigenous businesses, support Indigenous bookstores.
It's like at least birch bark every day that either me, Kim, especially Neil Yazzie on Instagram, Danny, Aaron, Alexis, Kay, Bear, we're all at least once a day or something like that. We are like tweeting something or sharing something that happened. There's always different types of news that are going on every single day. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, and you can find some amazing resources.
Yeah.
Awesome. And actually with that too, I'll say, I know like next month, Kim can't participate in the live show, but for anybody watching who wants to join us in the live show, if you are an Indigenous creator or reviewer or whatever, and you are interested, reach out to me or Michelle, Instagram DMs or Twitter or whatever, if you want to join us to talk about
we'd love to have you.
We would love to have you next month. So yeah.
I'm going to be in the chat like this.
Yeah. It's going to be good. So yeah, we would love to have more people. And yeah, I'm so glad this like worked out, because I think that's the thing is like I wanted to be able to use the platform I have to host this and read this stuff, but like having you guys come and talk and share your perspectives is so great and helpful. And like I mean that's the thing, like I can read this and be like, yeah, here's what I liked about it, but I can't like the level of commentary and like unpacking it. You need own. This is why Own Voices reviewers, I think, are so important to support and follow in the community too. So guys, Michelle and Kim are both linked in the video description down below. So do that.
Oh, Heather has a question.
Yeah, this is good.
Question.
Oh, that's a good question. I would wonder that also. Like, are there things that would be appropriate or not?
No, I think okay, so the shirt that I'm wearing is actually Big Sky Soap Arizona. They're in a Hopi Tewa Indigenous business, and they make soaps. They're pretty awesome. Hanyoti Inc. They actually have people who buy their stuff in other countries. So their shirts are completely amazing. I could probably say the only things that I would say are inappropriate to wear are like anytime you see traditional clothing, probably a no-no. But I do know people, for instance, who buy traditional clothing, but they don't wear it. They'll like put it in frames and say like, oh yeah, this artist made it. And so they don't wear those things. But t-shirts, I mean, t-shirts are completely fine.
What? Oh, keep going.
Oh, I said t-shirts are completely fine. Like I know Indigenous businesses out there.
Or like earrings and stuff. I think she was asking about.
Oh yeah. No. Jewelry is completely fine unless it's like specifically. I think the best thing you can do is just engage with the artist. Like just ask them questions. They're more than happy to educate and just say like, hey, are these, I'm non-native. Would these be okay for me to wear? And if they say no, and then all you can just be like, oh, well, do you have anything else in your collection that I can wear? I mean, I'm a non-native, but I would love to support your business. So I think that's just engage more. And
good.
Also, I'm trying to think.
Stickers.
Oh, yes.
I got this one from Sage and Oats, Montana Trading Post. The owners are Major and Michelle Robinson. So I just got this in the mail. It was
that's really so cool.
Yeah, it's the Native Mount Rushmore.
I love the ones where it says it has all the natives on Mount Rushmore, the t-shirt, and it says defending the United States since like 1492. That t-shirt's awesome. Or okay, I'm gonna give you this advice. If you see a shirt that says like Indigenous woman, or basically like what's the other exact, like Indigenous strong proud or whatever,
then I mean, common sense. It's like common sense stuff, I guess. Like yeah.
But I know like a lot, like Alan Hanyoti, his work is so beautiful. He does designs that has even just like a pattern, but a lot of his work is explained. Like if you follow him on IG, he'll have like, oh, this is what this design means, and a lot of it he really explains what the artist the purpose or the symbolism of the artwork that he creates. And a lot of Indigenous artists are like that. They'll say like, hey, look at, and you can just comment and say, hey, what's the significance of this piece? Like why is it this color? Or so I think that's like, what if you engage with businesses, they're more than happy to educate you, and businesses love doing that. I know people who sell artwork, and they love talking about their work because it's something that they're very passionate about, right? It's who they are. It's who they are as Indigenous people. It's part of their identity, their culture, and all of that really awesome stuff. So, okay.
I have this sticker too.
Oh,
that's cool.
This one's from Muskokie Made. But I think they do earrings and jewelry. But I saw the sticker on there, and I was like, I have to have it.
Michelle, what was Erin's shop? Erin's sister's shop. Remember her in Alaska? What was her shop?
It was something Trading Post, I think, right?
Yeah.
Erin might have it on her. My phone just died, but Erin might have it on her thing.
Instagram.
Yeah,
I'll just share it in my stories. I'll find it and share it.
Okay, cool.
Their stuff is awesome.
Yeah, there's some really great stickers there too.
Well, while we're on here talking about this, why don't you guys also, like, do you have a book that you want people to go check out?
She's like running. I'll go get mine. They're just right here. Okay.
You know, book nerds. I mean, like, of course. Oh, we're getting a stack of them. I love it. I love it. Yes.
Okay, while she's looking, I'll just quickly
go.
This was the first book that I ever read where I saw myself. This one's not a romance. This is like a contemporary. It's called Apple in the Middle by Dawn Quigley. She also has another book coming out in July called Jojo McCoon's the something best friend or something like that. So there's that. And then, of course, The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
There you go. Somebody said Betsar Michelle will have an SG.
Yep. And then, of course, we have Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorn.
Yes.
I also really enjoyed, I don't have a physical copy, but I really also enjoyed I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. I also have Sea in Winter, but I haven't read it yet. And then we have Ancestors Approved by Cynthia Lettich Smith. She's like one of the kindest souls ever. She sent me like a few books a couple months, like last month. So we have this one, and it's also
and we're reading one of her books later on. I don't remember which month.
Yeah, we're reading Hearts Unbroken.
Yeah.
I'll
look up what.
So these are all the authors that are contributing. So we have like Joseph Brusha, Christine Day, Eric Gansworth, Dawn Quigley, Rebecca Roanhorse, Cynthia herself, and like a bunch of other authors. This is so good. So if you liked They're There, but maybe you wanted something like a little bit easier on like the mind because there's so much stuff happens in that. This is like not the middle grade version, but like it gives you a sense of community that is just like, I loved it. And then, of course, my very favorite, Winter Counts by David Heskawambly Wyden. David is, I'm going to mispronounce this because I always mispronounce it, but David is Sichahu Lakota, and I'm Oglala Lakota, And so like getting to read this and like all of the culture stuff and like especially like the use of Lakota in like Lekshi and Hisapa and Watecha is called is leftovers. And so like you get to see all that, and I have all these tabs. Love this book to death. There you go.
Yay.
I haven't even book hauled these in. So actually I'm gonna be showing, so these next 4 books I was gifted from, or actually I was sent these books by Milkweed. So one is Mama Sketch by Daryl McLeod. So I heard this is a pretty awesome book. This is also got read in February for Erin and Danny's book club. So another one that just recently came out is The Seed Keeper. It's a beautiful cover by Diane Wilson. I heard this is so good. So if you've read Robin Wall Kimmer's Braiding Sweetgrass, I heard this is a really awesome follow-up. The next book is For Joshua by Richard Wagamise. So Richard Wagamise is awesome. He wrote Indian Horse. He has a pretty wide collection of books out. Here, this one's poetry book. This is by Jake Skeets, and it's called Eyes Bottled Dark with a Mouthful of Flowers.
And that's one of Barry's favorites as well.
Yeah, I love. So Neil was actually, we were chatting about this book, so I wanted it. And then I actually won this book. Woo! I won this book from Native Girls Reading. She's an Indigenous Instagrammer, and she was doing a book giveaway. And this is The Beadworkers by Beth Payatot. So, and then I'm going to be reading this next book for April, because April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's called The Beginning and End of Rape: Confronting Sexual Violence in Native America by Sarah Deer. So I actually met Sarah. I was like, totally, she does a lot of sexual violence and sexual assault work. And I was gifted this next book by one of my subscribers. It's an Aboriginal book, Indigenous author who is Wiradjuri, Australian Indigenous author, and it's called The Yield by Tara June Winch. So
I've heard good things about that one too.
Yeah, it's has a pretty awesome synopsis about land and coming home and Indigenous communities, and so I'm pretty excited. So I haven't even book hauled those in yet. So you guys are like, where's she reading? Yeah. So.
Well, and then I feel like we have to talk about the fact that Firekeeper's Daughter hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yay. Yes. And it's fantastic. Have you read it yet, Michelle? I know
I am about 100 pages into that book, and then I also bought a book for my mom. It was a total surprise. So like I felt really bad because like last week she was telling me she was feeling really lonely, and I went to the store and I saw the book and I took a picture of it and I grabbed it, and I was gonna like take a little book shot and whatever, but she was looking at it and I bought it for her. Like I wasn't buying it for myself. I was gonna like do a little thing, but she was like, "Oh, this book looks good," and I was like, "Yeah, I was telling you about it. I don't know. I think it was like last week or something like that. I was telling her about it, and I was like, "That's for you." And she's like, "What?" And so we took a picture together and we showed it. I haven't put it on Instagram yet, but that's kind of what I wanted to do with my mom, is like where she and I both take pictures together of the books that I bought and that we've had. Like she has a copy of Alet's Away, which I haven't read yet, and she was trying to tell me all about it. And she's one of those people that like kind of gives spoilers. So I was like, "Don't tell me anything." What do you mean? I don't know. Yeah. But like I just love building those kind of traditions with like reading Native literature, but then also making it accessible for my mom too.
That's awesome. I want to read a lot.
Totally forgot. Oh yeah, Alet's Away is awesome.
I haven't hauled it yet. I need to like edit my book haul.
What, Kim?
Yeah.
In April, I'm also going to be in a live show with Chanel Time, and we are reading Black Sun. Yeah,
oh my God, I need to put on that.
So good. It was my favorite adult fantasy of last year. It was like, oh my gosh, so good. It starts like the first chapter though. It's like, oh my God, what is happening? Like it's the wildest opening to a book.
Yeah.
But it's really
I'm actually excited because the author, I think she's a descendant from Okewinge, which is a Tewa village in New Mexico. So I actually am Tewa, but my village is in Arizona. So we have like this really awesome origin story for our village, where we actually migrated from the Tewa villages in New Mexico to here. So I'm enrolled in the Hopi tribe, but we're actually not Hopi. We completely speak an entirely different language. We some of our most of our ceremonies are similar to Hopi, but we actually migrated here. So this isn't our original land. But we're kind of clumped in with the Hopi people. Yeah, so it's really interesting. So I'm kind of excited. I'm excited to read it because I know the author. That's where she's from, or where she's descendant from. So I'm excited to be in the live show for this book. And I was like, Chanel time. I was like, what?
Awesome.
I was like, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so great.
I was like, are you talking to the right person? Like, are you?
It'll be great. It'll be awesome.
You deserve it though, seriously.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, somebody else 20% into it. Yeah. Oh, and yes, it's a Nebula nominee, which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's so good. That's exciting. Yeah. And yeah, Firekeeper's Daughter I thought was very good. One thing is, I think for some reason a lot of people were thinking it's fantasy. It's not. It's like a crime mystery thriller.
She had said I think Angeline had said something about how it was being compared to like for me I think it was like Fierce Reads made it like Veronica Mars, and then she was talking about how she wanted to make like a native Nancy Drew, and I was like, I am here for it 1000%. It is so good. I saw so many different like native commonalities between me and like the book and like certain things that had happened because I have like a murder case in my family that it's like solved, but like the killers still run free. And I remember talking about that a few months ago during Indigathon. And then now with like reading Firekeeper's Daughter, I'm like, this is so serious and like such a necessary topic to bring up, especially because missing murdered Indigenous women and two-spirit relatives are gaining more traction, which we need.
Yeah. No, it's a great book. It's intense though. One thing too, because I know you're not done with it, just like for anybody watching, like, do you know there is like on-page sexual assault later in the book?
You've read the whole thing?
Oh, I read the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like as an FYI, there is like an on-page. It's not graphically described, but it like does happen on page. So like just for anybody who needs that as like a content warning thing. But it's a really good book.
Thank you for letting me to read about that.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my copy. Sad face.
Yeah, I was really sorry to hear about what happened, Kim.
I know. I was so bummed out because I don't have NetGalley and but I am so excited that I was able, like what most of the Indigenous book reviewer group, Saga, reached out and they're like, hey, do you want, so Stephen Graham Jones, Michelle's favorite author in the whole entire universe, he has a new book coming out too called My Heart is a Chainsaw, and he's an Indigenous author who mainly writes horror. But he is such a genius. The way he fits in social commentary and Indigenous issues and symbolism is just genius. I think him. I didn't do. I don't know if my BookTube channel. I didn't do a top 10 or top 20 of 2020 because I was just completely busy. But The Only Good Indians is easily the top read of my 2020. All the books I've read in 2020. So he's completely amazing. So But yeah, My Heart is a Chainsaw. If you guys are horror readers, go check it out.
I saw
And if you're,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I think there was like an excerpt that I don't know where it was from, but I remember wasn't it Aaron or somebody that shared it in our little chat? But somebody was like, "Oh, here's an excerpt of this," and I read like the first 12 pages, and I was like, "I have to have this." So I immediately emailed my contact, and I was like, "Hey, so when those come out, can you hit me up, please, please?"
I love it.
Do it.
Yeah, it's really good. I read The Old and Good Indians too. It's fantastic. Read now. It's read now. Really? On NetGalley? What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it? Let's find out for anybody who wants to know.
I really want an arc, so
well,
yeah, I want a physical arc. Did you see the or was it Kayla? They showed us the
they did, and also Steven posted like a picture of the VHS and like coming from that VHS era. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm living my best TriStar dreams and like the very beginning of Thunder or Heart, and like so we have our little VHS tape and like there's some little extras in there, but like like I don't care about the extras. You can keep that. I want the book. I want a book. I was like,
all right.
Yeah.
So My Heart is a Chainsaw is available to request on NetGalley. It is not read now at this point. So, but I did just request it because why not? Everyone sprints to NetGalley. That's hilarious. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Awesome. Well, now you guys have lots of books to read, and thank you guys for joining. This was really great. I want to get the rest of the series and continue reading more things. I think this was a good pick, I think, to start with. I feel like there was a lot to talk about, which is nice. Like, I don't know how much social stuff there will be to talk about.
I'm here for all.
It'll be fun to read.
Sneaking away and the traveling and the little witty banter and the dress. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
It'll be fun. It's going to be fun. It looks beautiful.
Again.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the chat and I'm going to be like, can we talk about the scene on page 68? Wink, wink, please. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
But not really.
So, thanks, guys. Oh, good. Well, thank you guys for joining. This was fun. Join us back here April 29th to talk about Seducing His Secret Wife by Robin Covington. And again, if there are any other Indigenous creators, reviewers, whatever, who want to join us on the live, please reach out to me or Michelle. We would love to have you. It would be great.
Do it.
Yeah, and this will be available for live for replay. If you did miss any of the discussion of the book, it'll still be up. It'll take me a little while to like edit down how many ads they put in the middle because they like to just throw in a ton of them and you can't edit them for like 2 days, but eventually I'll fix it. So cool. Thanks everybody. Have a good night. This was fun. See you later. Bye.